Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, it's DMG and welcome back to Blitz, and today we are going to go over a back to basics video for a map guide. This will be on Oasis Palms, and while I know about a dozen of you have subscriber replays waiting in the wings, I wanted to mix up some educational content for you all. So let's just go through this and then we can get back to the fun stuff, okay? Alright. So without further ado, Oasis Palms. Now, you're going to notice that Oasis Palms is like another map in the game. And no, before you say Desert Sands, it is not like Desert Sands. Well, I guess you could almost say it's like Desert Sands, but it's not the one that comes to mind in my opinion. Now, the difference between this map and Desert Sands is that instead of having a raised middle area that defines the two different major parts of the map, you have a lowered area. So what that means is that you're able to shoot across from one major area, which is the town area, to the other major area, which is the dunes area. And while a town and a desert area exist on Desert Sands, this map is almost like Middleburg. See, he caught me saying town, right? So let's just back up for a minute and look at what's going on. You have a town area and you have a dunes area. Now, on encounter, it really is almost like Middleburg, right? So if on encounter, which side do you think you want to go? If you don't know, that would be the dune side. Now, even on Supremacy, which side do you think you want to go? I'll give you two choices, town or not town. Which one sounds more appealing to you? Not town is the correct answer. Don't be going over here. This is not a good idea. Despite you having two caps, right? The dune side is usually the better side to play. And while town in Oasis Palms is slightly more workable than in Middleburg, the same principles kind of apply. Now, if on encounter, let's say, you go to the town and they take the dunes, right? You can try and cap the base, right, which is right behind those rocks, like, pretty much exactly where that B cap is, right? But it's not going to be all that useful for you, as people can drive all the way like out here and then get a spot on you and shoot you, right? Light tanks will be able to just drive around with impunity, get a spot on you, and they don't even have to penetrate with you with AP, and people are starting to get somewhat smart to that and are starting to fire more HE. I mean, I'm not sure if firing more HE is necessarily a better thing or not, but at least they're firing more HE at resetting the caps, right? So they're getting smarter in that regard. Now, with encounter, if you go to the town, right? And I talked about this on my Middleburg guide, right? You have the buildings to take cover in. But there's so many different ways you can get attacked. And while this town is better than the Middleburg town, because at least you'll be able to see them coming a little bit sooner rather than having them spotted right when they're on top of you. Think about what I said, right? What did I say about hull down versus side scraping? Which is the better tactic? You can either side scrape or you can hull down. Which would you rather choose on an encounter game mode? And also consider that while that cap does have some cover from the dunes area, you can still reset it. And having a tank in the cap circle, they know exactly where you are. And there's so many different avenues where you have to defend, right? So back to the side scraping versus hull down. You can either side scrape out, possibly get penned, or you can go to one of these ridges here and only poke your turret. Which sounds safer, right? I mean, especially if you're going to go up against, derp guns exist at tier 6 and up, right? And, KV2s fire a lot of HE, so would you rather side scrape out and show your side? And yeah, sure, I mean, it's not going to pen you for a full roll, but 400 alpha still hurts on the side of a heavy tank, right? Or an SU-152, or you can be here in your M103s, your ST-1s, and your T-54s. You name the tank. It can perform here. Even turretless tank destroyers like the Jagdtiger can haul down right here on the small little ridge and just poke their gun over like this, making them an extremely tough target to penetrate. But looking at it from the Dune side, right, do you see how many different avenues you can attack from? I can, if the cap needs to be reset really fast, I can drive up through this middle area right here that I'm looking at and just quickly reset. And sure, it may cost me a decent amount of HP, but I still reset the cap and do my job. I can also reset the cap, like I said, from going out here, right? It's not that hard. And, that's not even attacking through a lane. I can attack through this lane right here and then reset the cap. I can flank all the way around and attack on a flank like this. And that's just one side, right? The same exact avenues exist on the other side as well. There's so many different ways you can attack. And you think about it, the enemy team only has 7 tanks, right? If this was, say, a PC map where it's 15 versus 15, right? You have more tanks to defend the town with, and then it becomes slightly more viable. But also keep in mind that the Dunes area has a decent amount of, tanks, and you can attack from the same amount of lanes. But regardless, is that there are 5 avenues to cover. So 1 with the long flank around this side, 2 by going up through this area, 3 with the middle area, 4 with that reflection of this area over here, and 5 with the long flank around over here, right? So it's not pretty for 7 tanks, right? You're splitting 7 tanks across 5 avenues, and sure, you can, kind of compact them in, right? And maybe only guard this lane, the middle lane, and this right lane over here, right? But you're still splitting 7 tanks between 3 avenues, so that's 2, 2, and 3. Or if you have a tank destroyer, they're sitting in the back, so it's 2, 2, and 2. And yeah, it's an adequate defense, but when the enemy team starts knocking on the door from the dunes, there just becomes so many different ways you can get caught in a crossfire or be flanked, right? Because sometimes people will start pushing around this way, correct? And let's say, oh, cripes, the match ended, but I'll just keep going on it. So let's say you perform a long flank and the enemy team is covering the inner 3 lanes. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to turn their guns to you. They're probably going to start moving back and forth if they're smart, and that will eventually open them up to shots to people in the dunes. So if we go over this again, right, and I pop the engine boost, let's say I'm flanking all around here, and I see, let's say, an IS-6, right? I'm not going to be able to penetrate him, but he has to turn his front armor to me so that I will not be able to penetrate him. Now, if he turns his armor, and let's say they're not covering, the flank lane, and they're all the way in here, right? Because it's better to be safer to other teammates, right? And they're in here, and they're going to start poking like this, trying to get shots at the LTTB. This opens you up to shots all the way around here. If they push me in the LTTB, let's say this theoretical IS-6 pushes me, he gets shot all on the side. And if you take the dunes, these shots just open up like crazy. People will poke. I mean, it's pubs, guys. People will end up poking. People get poke happy. I mean, even I get poke happy. It's pubs, right? You can get away with poking, whereas in, let's say, competitive matches, you can't. But it's pubs. That's the whole point. It's a different meta. So, the dunes is always the better side. At least in my opinion. Now, if it's Supremacy, the AB side, the town side is more workable. But even then it's difficult, because then you have to split tanks between A and B. And then it becomes the same problems again, right? It just becomes this very, very difficult... how do I say this? It becomes a very difficult play to master. I mean, yes, the B and A side is theoretically stronger because it has 2 caps versus 1 cap. But to say that every single one of your public teammates will know what to do in this BA situation, right? Because if you send heavies into the B cap, they're going to get sniped in their turrets because they're tall. If you send a medium into the B cap, that's assuming that your mediums aren't dumb, go with you, go into the B cap immediately as soon as you start capping, or around the time you start capping C, and then are able to run away unspotted, which means just driving straight to A and not going side out, right? C, on the other hand, while it may not be theoretically as strong in terms of how many cap points you can get, or potentially how many cap points you can get, it's simple and it's effective. It carries good, strong foundational positions for good technical work, right? And yes, the BA is more tactical because you cap bases, then you hide. But this, you cap a base, you have strong technique with hull down positions, right? Because hull down is always better than side scraping. And then you can proceed from there. Now, there's not too many positions in the town you can use. Now, if you're in a, I will show you a few things that you are able to do in the town in the event your team ends up going town, which is quite the unfortunate event. But, hey, without town noobs, where would good players be, right? So, what you can do in tank destroyers, this is really the only good spot for a tank destroyer overlooking A, is this bush right here. The bush exists on the other side. That one, it's over there. See what I'm looking at over there? That right over there. That bush. That exists over there. So, good on that, right? But past that, there's not that much room for tank destroyers. And I mean, yes, you can sit back here and you're 183, right? But it's hard. I mean, all you have is this rock, and I mean, maybe you can sit here in a Yag, maybe, but you're gonna get spotted and you're gonna get shot at. It just makes it, there's not enough soft cover, there's not enough concealment for you to abuse as a tank destroyer. And that's why, you know, let's say you have 1 tank destroyer max on this map is all you need. You don't need 2 or 3, and that goes regardless whether that's public or competitive, right? But you can also go here in a heavy tank. This is really standard. This is your IS-7 spot. This is your IS-4 spot, your M103, your E75. Anything can go here and pretty much haul down. Depending on how tall you are, you use a different part of this ridge, right? If you're IS-7, you may be here. If you're M103 or E75, you may be here, right? So keep that in mind when you're going here in your, or to this area in your heavy tanks, because it does make a difference. Now, you can also be really cheeky and go into this cap immediately if you, let's say you have a fast heavy tank like an IS-7, put it here and then point the gun like this. They will not be able to shoot you from here, and if they want to poke on you, they will have to come all the way around, turn their turrets, which opens them up to shots from the people sitting back here on your team. And you're hull down, so you're going to be pretty darn safe. And to penetrate an IS-7 frontally, that's kind of a big ask for a lot of people. So it's a good spot. It doesn't work for every heavy tank. Not every heavy tank can make it, but it does work. And this town area, right, there's not really much you can do here. There's a few bushes that if you're in a medium tank, right, and you have to hide, something that I found kind of effective is that this is what I was doing in a Leopard 1 against an AMX 5120. And yes, this isn't the most perfect bush to use, right, because there's this small gap here, which means you get spotted. But if I can knock down this tree, oh, hey, look at that, a little bit more cover, right? It's not the best, but you just get a little more. Now, this allows you to poke through this bush a little bit easier, put shots into C, and then back off. Past that, though, this area is pretty unviable. And now we're going to talk about the common tank destroyer area that a lot of people like to use, which is sitting in this corner. It does not work. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't work. It doesn't work on the north side. It works on the south side, right? Because on the south side, you can go sit all the way back up in that corner over there. And I will show that when actually, I think I'll make it there in 30 seconds if I pop an engine boost. But it doesn't work on that side because it's not as raised. It's closer. But this side, it's more raised. You have a better view on everything. So up in that corner right there where I'm aiming, see the red line coming to a corner right over there. So that's where you want to sit your tank destroyer. But also keep in mind that if you don't have spotters out here, and if you get spotted, you're going to die, because the time it takes for you to leave that red corner to go to somewhere with cover, it takes longer than you think it will, which means that people are going to be able to have free shots at you. And if you don't have a lot of armor, I mean, and tank destroyers or tanks in general don't have a lot of armor on their sides, right? So it's going to be a very difficult ask for you to be able to get out of there alive if you get spotted. So just keep that in mind. So another important thing you're going to want to know about Oasis Palms is how to play the desert side, because I've been touting this desert side, right? So how do I actually play the desert side? It's not all that bad. You know, it's all about, you don't even have to have a lot of gun depression. I mean, more gun depression is always nice, right? But it's not about having the most amount of gun depression. So what I like to do in most tanks, or fast tanks, is go to this area. What does this area give you? It gives you map control over this right rocks area, usually, and it allows you to keep enemies at bay that are trying to cross. Now, why is that important? Now, on both sides you can do this, but you can poke like this, show your viewports and back down, and spot any enemies that are crossing into the dunes, which gives your team information to better set up. And when you're in this position, right, let's say I'm in a Patton or an E50M, right? I poke here, and let's say people are crossing because they want to get to this area behind this rock here, right? Or the mountain, rock formation, whatever you want to call it. You get free shots at them. And if you track them, they have to blow repair kits, and then you may even get another shot at them. And you could just pick apart your opponents that are just trying to cross to get to the other side here. This is where I like to put myself most of the time, because it also doesn't mean I'm too far forward. I don't get caught out in a corner and get rushed. I'm allowed to back up behind this rock, and while it's not a lot of cover, I have pulled off some crazy standoffs from this rock, you know, with enemies over there trying to poke over the ridge and shoot me, people coming here and trying to poke over, even people sitting behind this rock, like right next to me, perma-spotting me, trying to get shots at me. And it has worked, right? I mean, it's not the best place for cover, but it is better than having nothing, than being caught out in a corner. Now, about this corner, you can go out here. It is workable. It absolutely is workable. However, the thing about the corner is you cannot trade HP away easily, because if you lose all your HP, they press you, and you have to go back around this corner, right? And then they'll get free shots at, let's say, me, who is sitting around here, tank destroyers who could be sitting over here, anybody in the desert area that's fighting, right? So this is a good place. If you can get a heavy tank over here, great, but good medium tanks or really fast tank destroyers, like I've seen SU 12254s or J Panthers go out here, right? And it's kind of a haul down area right here, almost. But you can work large weaponry and just prevent people from pushing, because it becomes a corridor fight. So turretless tank destroyers can work. Even Jagdpanzer U100 can work right here, and I've done it before. It works. I mean, it's not, I would say, as good as an IS-7, but it works. So over here, you can take mediums, lights, a bunch of other things, right? If you win this corner, the game becomes a lot easier, but it's not the final deciding factor. So this could be a key area for you, depending on your situation. Now, on this other side, it's almost the same thing, right? I can poke up right here, I believe. Yep. And get a shot on people crossing, and then turn the hull easily after backing down and come here as they keep crossing. That's 2 shots. And then I've taken, what, 0 shots for 2? I've dealt, let's say if I'm an E50M, I've dealt 700 for 0. I'll take that trade any single day, right? Whittling down their HP early, making sure that they know that they are spotted and they are going to get shot at, provides an early psychological game advantage, as well as an HP advantage as well. So this area is dominated for, you know, strong heavy tanks that are fast, like IS-7. I mean, really, we're just talking about the IS-7 right now, right? or the fastest heavy tanks in the tier, right? So let's say a Defender if it's tier 8, or an IS-8 if it's tier 9, right? And you're thinking, oh, how would IS-8 work here? But you can still only show your turret. You can even go down this ridge like this and poke this way. And it works with your minimal amounts of gun depression. But where do the big heavy tanks fight? Big heavy tanks fight over in these two channels right here. So this channel is a little bit more dangerous, but it can work for, let's say, the E100, the mouse, things that want to sponge a lot of damage. Because you have the armor, you want to attract attention, so your mediums and lights can do the work. I would say this is probably better for a mouse than an E100. Let's say you had a KV4, it would probably work here too. Hull down tanks like the T-34 are not as good in this lane as, you know, they're out in the open and their hull is exposed. But IS-3, KV-4, those are the kinds of tanks that I could see out here. Even a Tiger II could be out here, right? However, this lane right here, this is still in the dunes, this is meant for your T-34s and your T-32s. I abuse this dune right here all the time when I am in a hull down heavy tank. You can poke over, get shots at all the people trying to shoot. Sometimes there'll be people sitting over there in that dip trying to fire at the people sitting in a corner over here, right? And you can pop them a few times. You just have to be very careful in this position, as if you turn your hull right, if there are tank destroyers sitting in that corner, or if there's a tank destroyer, let's say, sitting in the bush over there, right, and I'm on the opposite side and I'm trying to do that, it opens you up to fire from massive caliber guns. So try and be aware of where you think tank destroyers might be. I mean, it's always worth a try at first, unless, of course, it's a 183 with a juicy Hesh round loaded. Now, this area is really only good for hull down beasts that have gun depression. You could even put a patent out here and it would work. But this is your M103 spot. This is your T-32 spot, right? Because it has a decently strong upper glacis. I mean, T-34 could even work here because while it doesn't have the hull, it has the turret. It has 10 degrees, right? LTTB with this gun only has 7 degrees. So you can see like just the amount of flexibility you can work here from your turret. But that's Oasis Palms in a nutshell. Like, if you win the desert side, you can essentially just go to town in the town, right? So that's all I really have for today. If you like that content, please hit that subscribe button. And if you didn't, please leave your constructive criticism in the comment section. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to share my passion with you today, and I hope to see you next time.